Alrighty, let's get this stream underway. Basically, nobody has been voting on my polls, so I asked directly what I should rant about today, and we decided today's rant is PETA bad. But before we get into that, hey everybody, hey Sir Kunamet, you doing alright? I did not actually work on this more. Oh well, I will just pull up my reference and get to work. So I have decided to stop using Patreon for polls. Now I'm using straw poll. It should be free to vote. It was the last time I voted on a straw poll thing. The only reason I have an account there is so that I can make and manage my own polls to a greater extent than I would be able to without an account. So yeah, feel free to join up or not and vote on some stuff. After this, I'm gonna make a poll about what I should rant about next week. I'll only be taking the top voted, I'll only be taking the #1 subject from that one because I will also be trying pineapple on pizza, so that I can see whether my defense of it holds any water. It is important to remember, or at least I think it's important to remember, that I have not tried it, and that was the point of my defending it, is I can only defend it as a concept because I haven't actually tried it in practice. Glad to hear you're doing great. How is Isle of Dogs? Is that going alright? Oh boy. Let me see if I can pick up a picture of Prince Lotor. There we go. Come on, images is what I'm looking for. Hurry up, silly thing. My internet is so slow. Anyway, it won't be for long. Hopefully. I may look into getting my own internet anyway. Just because I want to see if I can't find something faster. So, anyway, PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I think there's a lot of confusion that comes from that name, because, I mean, I dare say most people are for the ethical treatment of animals. I don't know anyone who's like, yeah, let's treat animals unethically. Because, I mean, come on, people, who says that? And I know that there are some sick people out there who do abuse animals, and, I am acutely aware that is a thing. But even then, I do think that they believe on some level that their treatment of animals is ethical. Because ethics are not actually a solidly coded system. I mean, we have a lot of things we generally agree on, and most people agree that those people are not doing the ethical thing. But because ethical means different things to different people, I am going to argue that PETA is not an ethical example of how to treat animals. Hey Fantasy, you doing alright? Hope your ride gets there soon. So you're not waiting too long. But, so anyway. PETA has no idea what the ethical treatment of animals is. They euthanize over 90% of animals brought into their shelters because they legitimately believe that's what's best for them. I'll give you a hint, it's really not. And that is coming from someone who does believe that euthanasia is an ethical thing sometimes. I mean, whether it's ethical in humans is a debate I'm not going to touch with a 10-foot pole, but most of us agree that if you have a pet that is suffering, the kind thing to do is to put it to sleep. I have had to put a pet to sleep this year too, you know. It's rough, it's not easy, but it was that or keep syringe feeding him water every day and just letting his episodes get worse and worse until he finally died naturally. And I think it hurt him a lot less to be put down. So I do believe that, if anything, the most unethical thing I did was hang on to him for so long. Hey, Sora Rules 23. We're getting kind of depressing here. I'm just outlining my stance for what I think the ethical treatment of animals is and why PETA is not that. So, yeah, I think that treating animals ethically sometimes involves making hard decisions. And I'm not getting at them necessarily for putting animals down. I'm getting at them for putting healthy, adoptable animals down, particularly young puppies and kittens that are healthy. Sometimes you have a puppy or a kitten that isn't healthy and it sucks. But, you know, sometimes it's legitimately the best you can do. So, my beef is not with putting animals down, it's with putting healthy, adoptable animals down. So, that's why I have a problem with their euthanasia policy. The other thing that I have a problem with, there's a lot of things I have a problem with, but the other major thing, tangentially related to the euthanasia topic, is that they are aggressively for breed-specific legislation, which is essentially that pit bulls should be euthanized and eradicated as a breed. And I think that is not right. I'm not saying that pit bulls cannot be violent or that they're not the primary breed of dog used in dog fighting, but I am saying that they were bred that way in recent times, and they can be rebred to not be that way. And I think that the best thing we can do for the breed is to refocus our efforts in breeding them. Um, so that's just on the domestic animal side of why PETA kind of sucks. On the more agricultural side of things, now, I live in an agricultural town. The reason we're on the map is that we have a festival every year to celebrate the fainting goats that originated in our region. Now, do I think fainting goats are an ethical use of animal breeding? Absolutely not. They're bred with a defect in their nervous system that causes their joints to lock up when they're startled, so that they fall over, and to the uninitiated, it looks kinda cute, but once you realize that they are aware of the whole thing, it becomes a whole lot less cute. I'm not saying that, so yeah, that's a pretty unethical thing in farming, just as an example that I live close to. But, for the most part, these people at PETA have no idea what ethical farming practices look like. Cows often produce way too much milk for their young, so it's beneficial to milk them and to sell their milk. We may not necessarily be adapted to drink it, but that's a whole other problem. You know, I have been lactose intolerant since I was a baby. I know cow's milk isn't the best for people, and especially me, and people like me. But that's not the point here, is it? The point is about how that milk is obtained. And the fact of the matter is that, for the most part, when farmed ethically, dairy cows have a long natural lifespan of about 20 years, during which time they will produce way too much milk for their offspring before being turned out to pasture for a few years, and eventually, towards the end of their lives, slaughtered for meat. Which sounds kind of bleak and hopeless, but it is a full lifespan for the cow, with reasonable measures taken by the farmer. That is what ethical farming looks like. Ethical farming does not look like letting the calf stay with the mom until it's an adult. Calves that are growing up get really pushy. And they can damage their mother's udders and cause scarring and all manner of gross biological problems, such as clogged ducts, which are basically when there's scar tissue and then the milk can't get through, so it kind of compacts and clogs where the milk is supposed to come through, and it's painful, apparently. So it would not be ethical to allow a pushy calf to stay with its mother at the risk of injury to the calf and the mother. So that's what one aspect of ethical farming would look like. PETA, on the other hand, pushes this kind of radical vegan ideology, which I have no problem with vegans. If you yourself are a vegan, good on you. You know, it can be a healthier way to live. We are, of course, omnivores descended from herbivores, if you believe in evolution. So, you know, more vegetables and stuff can't really hurt. That's my problem is not with you being vegan. My problem is with vegans who try to push people who are not vegan for reasons that don't concern them but may be medical, into being vegan, or people who try to force their cats or dogs to be vegan. Cats and dogs, unlike us, are not descended from herbivores, according to conventional science. Cats and dogs are very much carnivores. They really can't live on a vegan diet. Cats especially require taurine, which is found only in animal protein. So would be slowly killing your pet to feed it a vegan diet. I feel like I'm probably preaching to the choir here. You know, most of us are not vegan as far as I know. And most of us would never dare to force carnivorous animals to eat a primarily plant-based diet. But I see that ideology a lot in PETA circles and stuff. Another thing they tend to rail against is the yarn industry, which I'm not saying that there are not problems with yarn and textiles. Fashion is the second biggest polluter in the world after oil. I mean, think about that. The second biggest polluter in the world after oil is fashion. Of course there are some problems at the industrial level, but most of those problems are with the way that cotton is farmed and synthetic fibers are crafted and dyed. Yeah, it turns out nylon is not that good for the environment. Rayon is actually not plastic like a lot of people would think it is. Rayon is cellulose fiber. Essentially, it's glorified wood pulp. So rayon may not be as bad for the environment if it's processed properly, but it's also not an animal-based fiber, so it doesn't really factor into this discussion. What does factor into this discussion is wool. Now, a long, long time ago, it may have been possible to not shear sheep and have them be fine, but we're humans, we like to breed things weird ways. Yeah, nylon, I'm not a fan of nylon fabric, but back to sheep. We have bred sheep in weird ways, and one of those weird ways is that they have way too much fur. They will overheat in the summer if they're not sheared in the spring. And yeah, sure, sometimes you may have factory farms or a careless nick here or there, but for the most part, shearing a sheep is not particularly abusive to it. The most abusive thing I can think of with conventional sheep shearing is that you plop it down on its backside so it freezes up. But you kinda have to do that because sheep don't exactly understand the concept of sit still. They may be very gentle animals, but they will not understand when you're clipping their fur why it's important for them to not move. But PETA likes to make it out like wool is murder. Like, I'm sure you guys have seen that, the whole wool is murder thing. Yeah, I know sheep are kinda dumb. Well, it depends on how you look at them. I've heard of some scientists having trouble with sheep unlocking their gates, but it's mostly scientists who are studying the intelligence of the animals, so they're looking for it. There may be a little bit of a confirmation bias there. Or there may not be. I don't know, I'm not a scientist studying sheep intelligence. And I make that sound like I'm derisive of the field. I'm really not. I think animal intelligence is one of the most interesting fields in a long time. But wool is not murder, but PETA would like you to think it is. Another thing that PETA tends to do is they tend to harass accredited zoos. I'm not talking about SeaWorld. I honestly don't know about SeaWorld. I've seen so much evidence both ways with SeaWorld that I cannot form an opinion. Maybe you did a really bad job with the wolf sound. I don't know. But either way. Yeah, it's been a while since I've interacted with sheep. I haven't interacted with goats since the last Goat Fest. But, I mean, there's gonna be another one in October. Maybe I will make a video of going there just to show you guys. 'Cause, oh, okay, you used a cell phone for that. Never mind. I stand corrected. But, so anyway, it would not be ethical to stop shearing sheep at this point unless we started rebreeding them to not produce wool. Which, I'm gonna be frank, why would we? And then, I'm sorry, I had a point here, but I'm also drawing chess pieces, and it's getting kinda hard to do both. Oh yeah, that reminds me, the other PETA shenanigan to do with yarn that I've seen was putting their wool is murder stickers on acrylic yarn. Now, I'm not saying acrylic yarn is good for the environment. Actually, it's most likely very bad for the environment. But it's bad for the environment because it's plastic. It's not natural fibers. So it's not cellulose, it's not wool, it's not alpaca or anything. It's plastic. Very finely spun plastic. So, yeah, they're pretty... eh. But even then, there's also the whole zoo thing. Hey Aqua, I'm still ranting about PETA. I've said quite a bit at this point. Not that I think it's necessarily a divisive opinion to hate on PETA. The only people I think who don't hate on PETA are either PETA members or misinformed. Yeah, shearing sheep is not unethical. Shearing sheep is very ethical. As long as you're not being, like, overly cruel about it, you know? I mean, yeah, you have to kinda shock them into sitting still, but that's, like, shock as in you plunk their butt down, not shock as in you hit them with a cattle prod or anything. And honestly, I could go on. And I probably should go on because we are how many minutes in? We're 26 minutes in. How are we only 26 minutes in? It feels like it's been longer. Maybe I should have just gotten myself a drink before sitting down to do this. But yeah, it is weird to be like, I don't like people for the ethical treatment of animals, but The fact of the matter is, their group name is very misleading, as they do not treat animals ethically, nor do they advocate for the truly ethical treatment of animals. They argue... Now, fur is murder is something I can kind of see, because you do actually have to kill animals for that, and a lot of the fur industry really is unethical. They breed the animals to be especially fat with more folds of skin, so that there's more fur per animal. And they have to keep them very contained, so that they don't get too many nicks and scratches, because that would lower the value of the fur. This is, of course, referring to farmed fur. Wild fur is nothing I really know about. But the thing about farmed fur is that you can reform that industry. You can reform any industry if you know enough about it and have sound enough policies. Oh no, I am actually totally for hunting for food. Because, now hear me out here, if you are not in favor of hunting for food. If you're hunting for food, it is in your best interest to make sure the animal goes down quickly. Your entire goal is to make sure that it doesn't feel anything. Because if it does, and this is going to sound really selfish, but if you kill an animal and it feels it, adrenaline is going to flood its system and make the meat taste awful. Hunting for food is... I can see how some people are... what's the phrase I'm looking for? Well, I can see how some people are uncomfortable with the idea. But the fact of the matter is that where I live, it keeps the meat prices down. And it lets people who are at risk for being in poverty or food insecure possibly have a way to provide for themselves if the meat prices get too high. Now, I'm not even going to touch on the argument that, well, we should just go vegan. Because going vegan is not an option for everybody. In fact, many people can't go vegan for medical reasons. And that's not even touching on the fact that meat is just more calorically dense. I mean, if you're trying to lose weight, yeah, salads are gonna help. Because they have, nothing for calories. But if you are a working person who does strenuous physical labor, you need your meat. It's easier to eat a venison steak than it is to eat... And, it's easier to eat 350 calories worth of venison steak than it is to eat 350 calories worth of salad. And that's not even touching on food allergies. Did you know that half of the 8 major allergens, so the top 4 of the 8 most common allergens, are the bases for vegan food? You're looking at nuts, you're looking at soy, you're looking at wheat, and you're looking at... what's the other one? I know the other one, I just can't think of it off the top of my head. Oh yeah, wait, is corn a major allergen? I keep forgetting because I'm allergic to it. Um, as for whaling, I think there are ethical ways to do whaling, most of which tend to be indigenous hunting practices, particularly in the Arctic Circle. And there are unethical ways of doing whaling, which tend to be more practiced by Europeans and non-indigenous sailors. So I do think that with any hunting, there's an ethical way to do it and there's an unethical way to do it. I think personally that trophy hunting is unethical because most of the trophy hunters don't really do anything with the meat, they just kind of let it rot. And they don't care about sinking the animal quickly because they want the thrill of the hunt and they want to chase it down. Which again makes the meat taste awful, and you have to go through a whole process to make it taste not awful. Yeah, grain. Grain is a big base in vegan food. And it's just not doable for people who are allergic to it or who have celiac disease. And again, like, as I keep saying, I don't have a problem with you if you're vegan. I have a problem with you if you try to force others to be vegan. And I don't even have a problem with you if you say the vegan lifestyle really is more healthy, because if you're not allergic to the bases of vegan food, it is. I mean, that's a pretty big caveat, but I mean, counting calories works for me and it doesn't work for everyone else, but I still like to talk about it, so. Anyway, if you guys are wondering who I think is a better alternative to PETA, I recommend pretty much any local humane society. They generally lean towards being no-kill. Some of them do have to euthanize animals if they're sick or if they can't get them adopted, which is sad, but because of the lack of spaying and neutering, every person would have to have something like 4 pets in order for every animal that we consider a pet to have an owner. And that's every person, not every family. Every family is doable, kind of. Every person is not, because if you have a family of 3, that's 12 pets. And that's just not possible for us to keep up with. So in some cases it may actually be more ethical to put down animals that can't find homes. Which sounds really heartless to say, and perhaps it is. But we're talking about what we think is ethical, and this is what I think is ethical. Yeah. Eating meat is not a problem. Wasting it and using particularly painful methods is the problem. Kinda goes back to my whole trophy hunting thing. I think it's gross. And I live in trophy hunting country. We have to... Like, in some cases, even I can excuse trophy hunting. Like, in my area, we have way too many white-tailed deer. They're very pretty, and sometimes if you're walking at night and you happen upon an entire herd of them, it can feel like something out of a fairy tale. But the thing is, there's just too many of them. And with their population so high, they cause traffic accidents. You know, they eat crops all the time. And they just, they breed too fast to really maintain the balance of the ecosystem. And part of this is a man problem, because not man like the gender problem, but man as in mankind. Part of this is a man-made problem, because when we settled in this area, we got rid of the mountain lions. Mountain lions being the primary natural predator of the deer, and without the predators, they outgrew in number, and it's just been a whole mess since then. There's been talk of reintroducing mountain lions into the area, with varying degrees of popularity. Like, nobody wants to admit it, but having apex predators is necessary, even if it does make some things more dangerous for people. Which, it's a balance that we have to figure out, and it's a multifaceted issue. But because it's a multifaceted issue, it can't be solved by everything would be alright if people would just go vegan and stop hunting. Because if we stop, if we reintroduce the apex predators, we can slow down on the hunting. And if we don't reintroduce the apex predators, we actually have to accelerate the hunting. Which is one of the solutions that has been proposed by people who don't want to bring in the apex predators. Is that the opponents of bringing in apex predators feel that if we just lift the whole open season thing, at least on the white-tailed deer, it'll help out. Which, I don't know, it might. Or it might not. The argument against that is that even if we abolish the whole open season or seasonal ban on deer hunting, apex predators don't have open seasons, and they can manage the population better. So that leads us into the gross oversimplification of multifaceted problems that PETA tends to push. Ecology and, again, treating animals ethically is not an easy subject. It is, in fact, pretty depressing, and I may, after I sign off, just go and hug my cat for a little bit. Because it is not easy. So, yeah, that's basically my entire problem with PETA, is that for an organization that represents themselves as people for the ethical treatment of animals, they have very misguided ideas about what ethical treatment is. And even in areas that you'd think the ethical answers would be somewhat easy to come to, they tend to be not very ethical. Which makes me sad, because ethical treatment of animals is something that's really good to aspire to. You know? like I said, I don't know anyone who's just like, let's treat animals as unethically as possible. Unless they're like some sicko who likes fighting animals. But like I've said, even then, I think to those people they have a twisted view of ethics. They still think they're being ethical, even if they're not. Alright, so Sir Kunamet. What color are his eyes? Or what color are Amadeus Maxwell's eyes, since I have them open here? I probably should have just left Lotor's eyes open. And, closed Maxwell's. But oh well. Let's see, we've got kind of a dark color for that, and then his skin is purple! Now that I've gotten my PETA rant out of the way, how's everybody doing? I'm sorry that got so depressing. But it is a depressing topic. Maybe I should stay away from those in the future. Alright, I think this is that one. And then I'm just gonna grab this color and fill in the rest of these. Okay, I stopped clicking on what I wanted to click on for some reason. Merge down. Okay, you guys are still really far behind. Thank you, Internet. So, yeah, back to more pleasant topics. I've created a straw poll account and will regularly be posting polls just asking you guys what you want me to do next. It can be anything from rant topics. By the way, I'm taking suggestions on those since I'm pretty bad at coming up with them. This rant was actually one of the ones I came up with, and I don't think it's gone very well. It's just kind of devolved into a very depressing spiral of what is ethics, which is not really what I wanted to do with this channel, so I don't think I'll be returning to the topic. Except by, like, popular demand or something. If anyone actually did enjoy this. Because I didn't. It was cathartic to make fun of vegans, though. Well, PETA vegans, not vegans in general. The stereotypical vegans with a capital V and the trademark symbol at the end. I have your OC planned. I might do it ahead of the other one, for tonight. Because, yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to, view, and I'm gonna change the background color. Oh yeah, shoot, what color are Amadeus Maxwell's eyes if you're watching Sir Kunamet? You know what, screw it, I'll color them in later. Let's see, your older sister was talking to Mom and she's gonna... Aww. Oh yeah, that's cool, it's your nephew's birthday. That's awesome. Alright, so this is Sora Rules 23's requests. I'm slowly losing my ability to pronounce anything. Also, after this, I think I have to make a run to the store, which, just great. Sorry, I'm not sitting at my usual workplace, so I'm kinda sweaty. Also, my hair's greasy, and that does things like sensorily, I don't like it. When my hair's greasy. Like, I shower every day, my hair's just greasy. I'm a grease goblin. I swear, if it weren't for the fact that I generally avoid overly fatty foods, cheese being the primary exception because it's like the one form of milk that I can eat without having to take lactase pills. If it weren't for the fact that I generally avoid fatty foods, I would probably be sweating bacon grease by now. Gross. Not that any of you wanted to know that, but I don't know. I feel like it's important to remind everyone, and especially myself, that I am ultimately a garbage goblin. And maybe one day I will be able to not be that, but for now... for now I am pretty disgusting from an aesthetic standpoint, and that's okay. 'Cause, I mean, if you think about it, you know what? I'm not gonna go there because this channel is not for feminist rants. Especially not lukewarm feminist rants that have already been ranted about by people who are smarter than I am. Alright, Maxwell yellow. I'm just gonna finish drawing Aiden's hand here. This is your request, Dominic Wright, aka Sora Rules 23. So I'm just gonna use the same yellow from there, and I'm gonna go boom. But, you know what? I guess if I'm gonna go on that point, I'm gonna say that being a human being entails a certain level of grossness, and nobody is exempt. We are all disgusting. And I think that since we're all disgusting, it's okay. Alrighty, so here he is. I know he's not particularly dressed appropriately for, Norwegian weather, but maybe it's summer, because I hear even Norway can get kind of temperate in summer. Even Norway has times when the snow melts. If I'm not being... Okay, I don't want to use the straight line. Let me do this on a whole other layer. Let's see. Okay, you think Isle of Dogs has a good chance of being nominated for Best Animated Picture. That's good. I'm just gonna draw the shingles like this. For the record, I did not look up any pictures of Arendelle when I was drawing this. I'm just kind of going based on what vague memories I have of the movie. Frozen was a good movie. Its hype just killed it. If you want to know where I stand. Now, do I think other movies were better? Heck yeah. Heck yeah. But you're also talking to someone whose favorite Disney movie ever is Mulan, so... And that's not even knocking Mulan. I legitimately think it's one of Disney's best movies. Yeah, I guess. Like that? Let's see. If I did have to criticize Mulan, I think it is an oversimplification of Chinese culture, especially ancient Chinese culture. The whole thing about the fan being a symbol of Mulan's femininity is not accurate. Fans were a masculine weapon in ancient Chinese culture, if I'm not being misled. The whole fan symbolizing femininity thing is taken from Victorian England, or at least the Victorian era, when it was more common for women, particularly in the nebulous West, to use fans. Alright, I see your explanation. But yeah, I don't think Mulan does particularly good justice to the culture from which it originates, but you know what? It's still a good story. And, who doesn't sing along to I'll Make a Man Out of You? Which I'm now fighting the urge to sing right now. Um, but I will leave that to you guys to type, sing, whatever in the comments, I guess. Um, so, yeah, Mulan is my favorite Disney movie. Uh, hmm. Maybe next week I'll rant about why I think The Lion King 2 is better than The Lion King. Well, okay, that's not entirely accurate. I don't think The Lion King 2 is better than The Lion King. I just like it more. That makes sense? I mean, you really can't deny that The Lion King is the mechanically superior movie. But I still find The Lion King 2 more enjoyable. So, let's throw in a background here, since we're working on it. Let's do a background color. I'm gonna go for a nice deep blue. And Arendelle, I believe, is pre-electricity. So what we can do is we can go in and we can add some really cool star effects. Oh yeah, we're almost an hour in, so I'm gonna finish this up, and then we're gonna call it a night, because I have stuff to do, and by stuff I mean laundry, and also I need to grab a couple of things from the store, and make chocolate chip cookies, and freak out about Friday some more. I'm moving out, guys! Kinda feel like an adult now. Not really. But you know what? Maybe that's okay? I don't know. I don't know what's okay. I know what I think is okay, but where is my sparkle brush? Here we go. Yeah, I did like, the whole angle about, now, I'm not sure that anyone else read it this way. But the message I got from Frozen is that it was Anna's act of self-sacrifice that saved her, not Elsa's magic tears or whatever. Am I the only one who read that from the film, or am I just spouting nonsense? Could be both. I could very well be the only person who read that from the film, and I might indeed just be spouting nonsense. I mean, one doesn't preclude the other. In fact, I think they're more likely to go hand in hand. But, whatever. Yeah, the ghost ancestors scene was pretty funny in Mulan. Let's see. What else do I think? One of these days, maybe I'll make an analysis of Mulan versus Kung Fu Panda. That could be an interesting thing to play around with. It's okay. I don't know. I might have to put that behind my compilation of which Kingdom Hearts characters are most likely to beat up Macbeth. I'll give you guys a hint. Sora is not even on the list. The list of Kingdom Hearts characters who could beat up Macbeth is actually primarily Organization 13. So if any of you want to see that, let me know. I'll try to hit it, I guess. If you guys want me to. I have some editing software I have to get used to. And also, I am taking an editing class this semester, so maybe I'll even be able to make it look good. But, yeah, I would really like to involve you guys a lot more in the creative process. At first I thought Patreon was going to be how I did that, but Patreon is starting... I can't really say it's backfiring because it's doing what Patreon says it's supposed to do. It's just not as involving as, it just isn't quite as engaging as I hoped it would be. So let me blur this out. Not that much. Let's see, what else to talk about while I finish this up. I'm just gonna go up here. That ends up looking way too bright. That's a little bit better. What color did you say Aiden's hair was again? I don't remember, I'm sorry. Okay, gotta finish drawing that Arendelle. Let's see if I can't actually make this a little lighter. Oh no, that's like electric blue. Too bright. That's... meh. I'll take it. Fill in these areas. Okay, now it's time to color in Aiden. And he's got darker brown hair, right? I know his skin is very pale.